Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another segment of Ageless Beauty. And I'm so privileged today. We are privileged because we have with us today an expert. Her name is Laura Jarrait. Laura, say hello.
Hi, everyone. So good to be here with you all tonight or whenever you're watching.
It could be anytime. So, Laura, let me tell you a little bit about our expert. She is the creator of Eat Well, Move Well, Live Well, and she's an intuitive eating and movement coach for women. She is on a mission to help women end stressful thinking about food, eat with confidence and pleasure, and trust and love their bodies now. As a lifelong fan of eating and a devoted student and teacher of alignment-based yoga and other somatic and mindfulness practices for over 20 years, she teaches women to end the war with their bodies and come into respect, appreciation, and yes, even love for their physicality. Love it. Befriending your body is in this way changes the game completely around how you nourish yourself and experience joy and pleasure of being, which in turn frees you up to make your unique and powerful contributions to this world. And you can read more about her story and work at laurajarrait.com. And that's the Jarrait is spelled Jarrait. Laura, welcome to our program, and I'm so happy that you're here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Janet. I'm really thrilled to speak with you and to talk to your listeners and spread the good word about how we can be friends with our bodies. It's fabulous work, so I'm excited to share it.
I love the way that you talk about this in befriending your body. It's a little different from the movement that's out there called body love. And body love is a bit controversial because it invites people to love the body they're in. But then there's this other push and pull thing about creating a healthy body at the end of the day.
Right.
You have to have a healthy body to truly love your body. And so I like the way you put it in these terms. How did you, what's the point in your life where you arrived at this passion?
I think it's really been a lifelong process, and probably one that's only come into real, we're always evolving. So I think I was doing this long before it became clear that this is what I was doing. But as I said in my own story, I said a lifelong fan of eating. So I've been eating, and rarely do people cook anymore, I think, but cooking for myself and my family, such it is as it is, since I was a young adult. And I I've always enjoyed it, and yet I've been around the religion that I was raised in, actually, and the yoga world, and there's all of this talk about sort of disciplining the body. And of course we have a whole culture about how we should look, and I'm not immune to that. And so as I've gotten older, my weight's gone up and then it's gone down as I've tried to do some fad restrictions and things like that to bring it back down, and then it's gone back up again and gone back down. Never huge amounts, but if I'm honest, I would start to looks like, oh well, I'll feel better when I look like this, or when the scale says this. And I think just about 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, enough of this. Like, the rest of my life is around raising awareness and finding joy and presence and contentment in all of the moments that are there. And this is the body that life has given me, whether that's God or the universe or nature, or I'm just born into it, however we say it. It's me, and there's no use in running around wishing it were otherwise. It's actually detrimental to anything I might try to accomplish. So that's kind of how I came to it for myself. And I really wanted to drop that, as I say in my bio, in the war within, and drop this struggle that really goes on in the background, if not the foreground, definitely the background of, I would say, 90% of Western women. So.
I'm sure you have become well versed in the time that you've worked on this idea of befriending your body and being able to coach women into that mindset So in the big picture of befriending your body, what are some of the areas that you find that you have to address in befriending your body?
I think that, we the first foremost thing is this idea that I already mentioned, that the body is unruly or undisciplined, and that it's bad or wrong or less than or something, and that it needs to be managed. You know, we have all sorts of language around it. I mean, even when we talk about cravings, which of course we can produce biological cravings in the body by the way that we habitually eat and things like that. But whether we talk about um, food cravings or we talk about being lazy or weak, right? There's this idea that we just can't trust. That's one thing, is this sort of negative idea that the body is really can't be trusted, right? And it's going to lead us astray in one way or the other. So certainly you're in the world of food. We can also, of course, think about it very obviously in the world of sexuality and sexual pleasure and relationships and all of those things too, that can be part of it, that we're not to be trusted. And the other thing is that we can that there's information outside of us, that ultimately the solution is outside of us. And if I just find the right diet, the right combination of food, the right combination or timing of when to eat or what to drink or what not to drink, then I'll look a certain way and then I'll feel good about it. And so we don't give any credence to the wisdom that is within. And that's one of the main things I do for women, is teach them how to, that they've got the answers. Yes, some information is good, but ultimately their body has information about how it wants to move, and how, I like to say, how she wants to move, and what she wants to eat and when she wants to eat, and so we learn how to listen to that, and even pay attention to this idea that, just like a friend, there is this entity that we're in, this is our primary relationship. This is the relationship that we will have until we are no more. And it's not us just telling her what to do. I mean, nobody who wants a friend like that, right?
No, that's correct.
She's got information for us. And I really try to help women see that. And then I lost my train of thought. There was one that came in, another one that I really, I work with people on, but, along the line of friendship, like we would think of a friend, is that when we appreciate someone, that appreciation gets returned to us. And often we do not have an appreciative relationship with our body, or a respectful relationship with our body. And so we are upset with it all the time for what it's not doing. And again, we think about that as a friendship. Who wants to be, what's going to be on the other end, the reciprocal end of that? So
I really like the idea of thinking of this entity, it's a vehicle. We live in this bio sentient vehicle, and it has its own intelligence, it has its own memory, it has its own way of communicating, its own language, and we're inside of it, kind of like a little space capsule or a car, like it's like it will only respond to what we give it.
right.
If we give it good, if we give it bad, it will respond accordingly. But the idea of thinking of it, it's easier, I think, um, to internalize that idea if you think of it as a friend, because a friend that you admire and trust is usually, when you admire somebody, they're more beautiful
Right.
in your eyes. They become
Right.
more beautiful to you.
Right.
And they wouldn't let you down, and you can trust them. Well, that's how it is with your body, because
Right.
it doesn't lie. Your body never lies.
Right.
It always tells the truth, but sometimes the language is hard to access.
Right. Right. And I think it's really important what you just said, that they're more beautiful to us, or, our friends that we respect and admire and love, they're beautiful to us. And it's not because they look a certain way,
Right.
right?
Right.
There's an evaluation of, well, I respect and admire this friend because of the way they look. No,
No.
it is a whole host of qualities that they possess that's unique to each of our friends.
Uh-huh.
And we probably all think of them as beautiful people, you know?
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah, you see them as beautiful because of how you see them holistically. Yeah, it's wonderful. I love that. I'm going to remember that. So,
but
how does one go about eating in a way that befriends their body? This is a big topic. We could
yeah,
probably do a whole summit just on that.
you actually absolutely I definitely work with clients long term when eating behaviors. I will obviously walk them through a process. But one of the first things is really to, at least for a period of time, allow yourself to eat whatever it is you want to eat. Because again, so often we go in already with our preconceived labels of good, bad, shouldn't have this, shouldn't have that, healthy. We assign all of these moral qualities to food.
Mhm.
And when we do that, it prevents us from actually knowing what that food is doing for us,
Mhm.
physically, mentally, and emotionally. So if we just simply start for a period of time saying, oh, for the next little bit, I'm just going to allow myself to eat what I want. If it's chocolate cake, great. And then I'm going to notice whether or not I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you say you shouldn't have something, of course, it makes you want it all the more,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like, you know, that's just human nature. When
Sure.
it sets up that depriving mind,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So we can start to see. I have a great example of a client that I worked with that when she was in the first process, and at one point in that time of just allowing, her daughter wanted to order Domino's pizza, so she's like, "Oh, I'm just allowing, so I'm going to go with the flow." And of course, there's a social aspect to what we do eating as well, and
Mhm.
that's part of it, family. And so she said, so I ate the pizza, and I said, and did you like it? She's like, no, not really. And so I said, so, right? I never had to go in and say, don't eat the pizza. Like, she
Right.
came to that, it was perfectly permitted to do it. And she was not allowed to be guilty about it. She
Mhm.
could come to a whole different understanding of whether or not it was something that she wanted.
Right.
Right.
That's
And
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so that's always the first step. And then I ask people to really pay attention to how something makes them feel and why they're eating what they're eating. I do a lot of thought work with my clients. So when we want a certain food, um, especially foods that we might label as like thinking they're bad for us, but even thinking they're good for us and we're having it because we should, I like to sort of get behind all of those thoughts and see if um, they're beneficial or not. And if they're not, we go about
Yeah.
changing, you
Yeah.
know, um, because, a piece of chocolate cake, to go back to that example, or a glass of wine, fully savored,
Yes.
is not, it
Yeah.
can be the most healthy thing. I mean, I think this is one of the things that's true is that we compartmentalize health to the substances that we ingest.
Yes.
But we're a thought machine, and the thoughts that we think produce hormonal reactions in our body. And so the guilt or the stress that we put on ourselves through our eating choices causes also unhealthy, and
Yes.
don't we don't think about that. And so if I say anything, for my main focus is to help clients let go of that guilt and stress so they can get to the reality of the situation for them
Uh-huh.
and handle it the way nature intended,
So you can get to the point where if they can stop feeling guilty, then they can really dial into how they really feel
right,
when they eat it.
right,
It sounds to me like you must work a lot about um, being in the present moment with the food that you're
yeah,
eating, not eating while you're watching TV or
right.
something, so that you see that you're eating it.
Yeah. And so it's one of the things I discourage people from multitasking along the way. And that can bring up a whole host of things.
Mm.
But also I am, um, you asked a little bit about my history. So I know that I'm a sensual person. Like I experience the world through the senses. We all do, but I mean, I love music. I
Yeah.
really enjoy food. I love to look around at nature around us. And so that's one thing I encourage. It's the way that I'm sort of built, but I encourage the people that I work with to, and for everyone to do this, to really just pay attention, not only when you're eating, but to your surroundings. You know, if you just stop and take a breath and notice the sunshine and let it warm you for a minute instead of rushing from place to place, a whole host of beneficial reactions happen in your body. And
Yes.
certainly while um, while you're eating. So to really, I call it sometimes eat before you eat, where you just look at your plate before you start eating and you take in the smell, you take in
Oh,
sights, you set a nice table, you know, instead of eating on the run. Even the environment that you're in has a sense of peacefulness, and you have a moment of, you know, I grew up in a family that said grace, and I don't say it in the same way now, but I also take the time to really appreciate
mm,
all of the hands that went into making my food. You know, me who cooked it, the recipe developer, the people in the grocery store, the sort of whole chain, the
yeah.
animal, and it's this whole chain
Yes.
of hundreds of beings
Yeah.
that contributed to what you are eating. And I find that when people take the time to do that, once again, they're really feeding themselves on more than just
Mm,
the nutritional level. And they're more satisfied,
yes.
tend to probably eat less,
And
actually, if
slower.
that's there, and eat more slowly.
Yeah.
But also, they, it just, shoot, I lost my train of thought again. So they'll tend to eat less and eat more slowly. But also, again, if that's a practice which you engage in,
Right.
going to be much less satisfying to do that with food that is not like picking up fast food or heating something on the, you know, your whole being is just going to say this isn't as real maybe
Yeah.
as it could be. And
Yeah.
so you make some changes in a way that's much more easeful and natural.
I like the idea of I think I have noticed people before, like maybe at a restaurant, going out to dinner and the food is served and they just sit there and just look at
Yeah.
this, and just kind of look at it. It's like, that's a great idea. I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah, it's fantastic because not only does it just relaxes you, you
Mhm.
can really enjoy the meal more, but also biologically, you know, that preparation of taking it all in and smelling and seeing and then chewing your food well, it preps the body for better digestion too.
Yes.
From a biological, physical standpoint, it's better for
Yeah.
you to really do that because it preps like the digestive enzymes and everything that's needed for you to have a good meal. And so slowing down and taking the time, and not, same thing with not multitasking. It's not just so you're not distracted, but your body, you know, distributes resources
Right.
different ways. And so when you are enjoying a meal, it distributes your resources to feeling really satisfied and to
Yeah.
what you're doing. And so I like that as well because, you know, again, many women especially judge themselves as being lazy or weak, or it's like we reward ourselves after all of the work.
Uh-huh.
And we think that, um what am I trying to say? That pleasure is something we delay for later. And
Yes. Yes.
but
Instead of enjoying making the meal.
right, but taking pleasure in something as you're doing it and taking as much pleasure as possible actually leaves you feeling more satisfied. And
Yes.
what happens is we starve ourselves of pleasure and then we'll binge later. And
Yeah.
so that literally or metaphorically. And if you eat when you're not paying attention, it's almost as if you haven't eaten at all. Yes, you've ingested calories, and yes, you've maybe calmed the feeling in your stomach, but you haven't gotten any of the satisfaction that I think eating is meant to provide us.
Yeah, that's so profound, because if you're not in the moment with it, then you can't record it in your memory. It's
Right,
not in your perception. You have
right.
a vague idea that, yeah, you did finish that snack or whatever, but
Mhm.
not really savoring it and just enjoying it. And
Right,
that's
right,
when you can tell right away, like, this isn't agreeing with me. Like,
right,
that's when you notice it. So
right.
I mean, I'm thinking of this in terms of the analogy here is, um, with exercise. You know, when somebody doesn't exercise really, really fast, it doesn't go into the body the same way, and it's much more rife with the opportunity for injury.
Right,
Instead
right,
of doing something very slowly and mindfully with the
right.
breath, and it goes into the body more deeply, and you're fully aware of which muscles are working, and you can stop on a dime if something doesn't feel right.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's
Exactly.
very similar. That's really cool. Well,
Yeah.
so how do belief patterns, I'm thinking about body image is huge
Yeah.
nowadays.
Yeah.
Speaking about body image, and we have a lot of advocates for accepting different body types and
Yes.
being more accepting, which is great. So
Mm-hmm.
there's belief patterns that enter into it because of our culture and what we're
Right.
told.
Right.
How do those two things interplay?
Oh, they're huge. I mean, we could talk for days and months about this, but we get these belief systems from so many people. Many of us were raised in families where, of course, parents didn't know any better, but talk about our bodies and not very beneficial ways was happening. Whether somebody was always commenting on our weight, or
Mhm.
um, you know, especially for women, again, we have been really enculturated to, especially of the age that we're talking to, it's like
Yeah,
getting a man is the most important thing, and that's going to happen if you look a certain way, right? I mean,
yeah, yeah.
thankfully, I think that's changing, but certainly that's part of what we've, what we have um, been, many of us have been brought up with. And of course, we're just bombarded in social media with certain body types. And I'll say this, um, not, and because this, what your summit is about, is especially as we age. So I have been, I guess I'll say, um, I was going to say blessed. I don't mean it because it's better than, it's just been easier. I'll say I have a conventionally attractive body shape,
Uh-huh.
right?
Good
And so,
proportions.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
a conventionally attractive body shape, but nevertheless, I'm about to turn 49, start my 50th year.
Woohoo!
And I can't tell you, I mean, I look in the mirror and I see wrinkles and I see skin that's not, as taut as it used to be.
Sure.
And I have thoughts of not being as attractive as I used to be. And I have thoughts of being too old to do X or Y, and so again, that's that struggle. It's like, no, enough. I
Mhm.
mean,
Mhm.
I'm planning to live another 50 years,
At
and
least, yeah.
why would I, and I think this is a big thing, is just really being able to get to the point is like, why would I deprive myself of any of the enjoyment or achievement or accomplishment or relationship that I could have because of these thoughts that are going through my mind?
Right.
And our whole image is run by our thoughts.
Yes.
um, some of those thoughts were fed to us by our parents, as we said, and then of course all of the images in
Mhm.
our culture. And
Mhm.
so this is a great thing, is for women to do a social media cleanse where they really change the images that they're looking at, to look at bodies and ages. So I'm purposefully befriending people who are my age and older, who again, I think are beautiful. Like, again, there's that whole friendship thing. I would never look at a friend of mine who's 10 years my senior and
Right.
say, well, if she just looked younger.
Yeah. Yeah.
if her face wouldn't sag, if she just get some Botox,
Yeah.
she'd be better. I
Yeah.
mean, and we put it in that way. It's like, and so when we speak, there's a great quotation, I can't remember by whom, but it's like the words we speak become the house we live in. And
Yes.
so that's it right there. Like all these beliefs that we have. And of course, I want to assure women out there that it's not your fault. It's that you have them.
No.
But just like anything, when you become aware of them,
Yeah.
then you can have tools to start to change them.
Mhm.
And tools that really work to really change the way that you think about yourself. Because no one else is going to do it for you. No one else's approval or disapproval, no one else's approval is going to make you feel ultimately as good as your own approval will,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
And so I really, as I said, start to turn 50, I want to do a lot in my life still. And so anybody who's feeling like their life is slowing down or passing them by because of the way that they look,
Yeah.
yeah.
Forget it. Yeah. I think yeah, it's true. It's I think that, well, there's plenty of small non-invasive things that we can do that if they make you feel a little better,
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
okay. But
Yes.
we don't need to go into extreme measures to change.
Right.
I mean, I just I'm thinking about I did a photo session. I usually try to do one about every 2 years, so that there's nothing worse than somebody with a headshot that doesn't really look like them, because
Right.
you change, especially when you get a little older. And I just had a headshot, and my photographer said, so, when you'll be getting the images, and he goes, how much do you want me to tamper with anything? Because he's very respectful of women who just want to look. And I said, you have to leave my crow's feet in. I want to have the lines. I am a smiler and I laugh all the time, and it would look stupid if I don't have those little wrinkles. I said, you can smooth a little bit, like if there's a blotch somewhere, okay, but I want to look like myself and not lie to the public about that. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's
Right.
really
Absolutely.
am.
Good
Yeah.
for you. And I think, again, the imagery, so we talk about social media images, but also images of ourselves. So one of the best ways, and if people can ever get like a boudoir shot,
Yeah.
or just anybody who specializes in photographing women and has this mission to let the beauty of women be seen,
Right.
right, and is artistic in that way. I mean, I have a coach that I work with who um, was really talking about wanting to be able to see herself the way that her photographer sees her. And through a long journey, she has been able to do that. But it's really neat to have the artistry of
Right.
somebody like that to show you in a way that you can't necessarily see yourself. And on the other hand, it's sort of like exposure therapy, but actually the more images that you look at yourself and the more selfies you take and this and that, the more you will actually come to appreciate your looks
Yeah.
just because you're more used to them.
Yeah.
And so it actually not looking at yourself in the mirror and avoiding getting your pictures taken and all of that makes the matter worse.
Yeah. Right.
So,
Yeah. Confront yourself and just say, this is this person that exists.
right. Yeah.
Only
Yeah.
one. You're unique in that way.
Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about movement. I know you're interested in work with intuitive movement, maybe with yoga or other exercises. How does that fit into this picture of befriending your body?
It's the same thing is to and this is actually something I've come to after a lifetime, an adult lifetime of yoga practice, where I have been, given a set of postures and things to do. And I also grew up dancing before that. There's a whole host of, actually, I forgot this story. I was interject a little history. So I grew up dancing. So we can imagine potentially what a ballet dancer's body image might be. And in my ballet school, I remember in high school, my dance teacher, who herself was a bodybuilder. So she meant this as a
Wow.
compliment. but it was not the way that at a 16-year-old, she said to me, you know, you'd make a much better bodybuilder than you would a dancer. And at that time, that was just crushing, you
Yeah,
know,
that wasn't the right thing to say.
like, just funny. But anyhow, so I've grown up teaching the body how to move. And certainly if we um, don't move very much or are in pain, it's helpful to have somebody with good anatomical knowledge and whether it's a trainer or a physical therapist or whatever, instruct us in good biomechanics and move the body in that way.
Uh-huh.
But I've done that for so much time. I just like the eating. I'm like, I just started asking, like, what does my body want to do?
Right.
And so sometimes it's running,
Uh-huh.
sometimes it's dancing,
Mhm.
sometimes it's actually sort of rolling on the floor in this kind of organic way, as if you would take your morning stretch and just let it sort of
Yeah.
fall, you know. So I think it's taking also the the that's why I use the word movement instead of exercise. We're
Right.
really we're bodies in motion
Yes.
all the time.
Yeah.
So part of just appreciating movement as it happens in our day to day again. And then once we start to put our awareness in it, not as exercise as something we have to do to manage the body, but as something that we're already doing and just giving ourselves the time and space to expand on that a little bit,
Uh-huh.
you know, different things will happen. So, I mean, sometimes I go for a little jog in my neighborhood and all of a sudden I'll be skipping or doing grapevines. And it's not because that's the plan I'm going to do that day. It's like, it's just time
Yes.
to do something else, you know?
Yeah.
And so really helping women again, like move for the enjoyment of it, like feeling, and that's why I use the word physicality, like we experience the world through this body, and there's something good about feeling climbing up um, a steep hill or something like that. If you just put your awareness in the quads and not even the burn, oh, they're getting a workout, but just feeling the musculature doing its thing, right? Or
Yeah.
feel like to just kind of roll the rib cage and be more octopusy or undulating,
Yeah.
whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And even to feel what it's like to, this is sort of back to this whole pleasure, but like experiencing the body through the senses. We're using our body to like hug our children, right? Or
Right.
to feel the sunshine. So just waking that up, and again, you'll get messages as to how movement wants to happen on the very big scale, and also on little, you wake up like with layers and layers and layers of tissue that all has a movement that wants to happen. I'm exploring something called continuum right now, and so we're talking about like the cerebral spinal fluid and, you know, all these micro movements, and it's really delicious and actually great for the nervous system. It's super calming for the nervous system. And
Yes.
so
Yeah.
so
You made me
yeah.
you made me think of cranial sacral massage.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember the practitioner had me imagine that that I was a piece of kelp, like kelp that was just coming up from the
Yep.
bottom of the sea and
Yeah.
undulating. And with
Yeah.
each breath, I would travel up and then back down, and I could literally feel it was almost like a lava lamp, just
Yeah.
the feeling of it was very clear that my body really wanted
Yes.
to do that wave movement, but it was completely still.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you feel it inside, and then you can take it into movement. And again, we compartmentalize so much and think of like movement as exercise that we have to do, and we're really crowded. But there is this whole vocabulary of movement that our organism really wants, you know.
Right. Right.
And that fluid movement and that undulating movement and that slow movement, as I said, is fantastic for the nerve. It really releases oxytocin, and it stimulates the vagus nerve, which is one of the nerves we know now is really key for feeling safe
Uh-huh.
When we feel safe and connected, cortisol goes down. We lose weight without trying because we're not as stressed. We just stress is not just
Yeah.
live our body. And so, and also then our movements become much more efficient. So when you do go to work with a trainer or a fitness expert, right, you're not fighting against yourself, you know.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I listen. So we're in the process of doing organic movement, but also my body really wants. I can tell. I've been sort of sedentary for a while, so that's the other thing is these things go in pulses, and
Right.
now still I don't want intense cardio, but I do want, as you mentioned, like slow strength work, like
Yeah.
slow methodical
Mhm.
strength, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think when you mentioned about climbing the hill and being present and feeling it in your quads, there's also that thing. I mean, if when you were a little girl, if you at all played hard outside, as a lot of I know boomers did, because there was that thing about being home by the time the street lights came on, because we
right,
played outside so much. I remember sometimes when I exercise, it's so intense that when I'm done, my temples are pounding and I can hear my heart in my ears and I'm out of breath. It feels I go back to my childhood whenever that happens, and I'm so happy because
right,
that's when I feel alive. Because when I was a little girl, that's when I really felt alive. Wasn't that
right,
like going on right here?
right, right. So it stimulates this memory for you that is was so positive,
Mhm. Yeah.
and sounds like it's clearly something that your body really responds to, you know.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
conjures that memory. Well, in the few minutes we have left, Laura, what is exciting for you in 2019? Do you have a project? Do you have some plans? Do you have anything you want to tell our viewers?
My yeah, I don't have any big project on the works. I am really just looking forward to working with women. I really like to work one-on-one for now and really coach them through a process of um, getting to this place where they're nourishing themselves through food, through movement, through their sensory experience in a way where they really enjoy being who they are. And um, so I don't have any, I'm sure a big project will reveal itself, but I
Yeah.
actually felt I sort of guide myself in these seasons too. And this winter for me has actually been one of sort of hibernation and staying low and sort of making a lot of personal um, plans about the way that I want to be living my life. And I'm really excited about that. So
Yeah.
um, just some real gentle discipline around several different areas and friendships and finances and relationships and that's actually really one of the things I'm most excited about on a personal level
Yeah.
is and I think this work has a lot to do with it is as I've come to appreciate myself, I've come to appreciate my mother a lot more. And I think we all, if we're aging, we have aging parents and those relationships are precious. So um, that on my personal life, that's really what I'm looking forward to. And I'm looking forward to working with women through this year. And I do have a special a gift just for those of you who are watching on your listeners on this summit, and that is the things that we've talked about. I've got together and more in this intro guide to ageless beauty and how you can really befriend your body, whatever age and stage that you're in. So we can really outline those things, and so I'm happy for you all to pick that up on my website. It's at laurajarrait.com/ageless beauty, easy, the name of the summit. And
Nice.
it's it's intro guide to befriending your body. So I'll walk you through. And I'm really actually looking forward to seeing what will unfold big plan wise, probably in the second half of this year. Yeah.
Wonderful. It's exciting. This is a
Yeah.
really good time to be having this summit when we're at the beginning of a year, because so much is going to happen and there's so much potential for good. So this has been a wonderful chance to get to know you better. I so appreciate your message, Laura. It
Thank you.
needs to be shouted from the rooftops for women to befriend their bodies. And I think that one of the things that I can leave the audience with recently, sometimes we look at a beautiful woman, and there might be a moment where you just think, oh, not jealousy, but just like, oh, really? Like, I want to, why can't I, aspire? And there's this wonderful thought process, mindset, right?
Mhm.
Where if you see somebody that has something or is something that you admire, you can say in your mind, good for her. I want that too.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that way you are appreciating her,
Mhm.
what she has, and you are claiming your appreciation of it, but it doesn't go into a downward spiral of jealousy or feeling less
Mhm.
than
Mhm.
you did before you saw her. It
Right. Right.
embraces what she has, and that yes, you want that too. And
Right.
it's just it's been a wonderful little trick in the mind whenever you have
Yeah.
that weaker moment when that crosses your mind.
Right. Right. I mean, because I think that's fantastic to really up that appreciation and say, yeah, good for her. I want that too. That's just again what you hopefully, if you're a good friend, that's the way that you celebrate your friends, right?
Right.
It's like good for them, right?
Right.
If you're jealous of your friends, then we need to have a different conversation.
Yeah, right.
For the most part. But also I think if we have time, just another important point about what you brought up is that the thoughts that are going on, we see a beautiful woman and we get jealous. It's because we think that their looks mean something about their life, and we don't actually know that. So this is the big thing, is we think that looking a certain
Mhm.
way
Yeah,
will help us feel a certain way,
right.
and will get us something, but actually we can feel that way by changing our thinking,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Oh,
And
beautiful.
yeah, if we change our thinking, we will produce a different feeling for us. So yeah, good for her. I want that too, or I can have that too, or just even good for her immediately shifts the feeling.
Yes.
And then to be a little not catty, but to put a different spin on it. And again, this coach of mine, when she was working on her body image, she would walk around sort of the opposite of like reminding herself that just because someone looked good doesn't mean that their experience of life is good or that they feel good inside. And
Mhm.
her, your listeners are of the age to know who Christy Brinkley is, but she would always say to herself, whenever she saw a beautiful woman, even Christy Brinkley gets cheated on. It's like, look, this, you
Yeah.
have no idea
Yeah.
what this person's life is like. And even the
Right.
most beautiful women in the world
Yes.
suffer.
Yes. 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 It has to be more than skin deep, and that's what ageless beauty is. It's the part that it's a part of us that is our consciousness and our mindset and our joy, and it doesn't die.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And that's really to help women tap into the joy of being, to really like be in their body and feel what it's like to be alive, is everything changes. It's a game changer. So I'm
Yes.
so excited for you for helping me share this with everyone today.
Oh, well, we're happy that you shared with us too, Laura. You're fantastic, and I love your message. And I have so much gratitude toward you for being a part of this. So thank you
Mm.
so much.
Thank you. Thanks for putting it out there.
Okay, we'll say goodbye for now.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye.